It is time for another best of 3 series of top level StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is a Zerg versus Protoss. We're in the top right hand corner. Playing with the red Zerg pieces, we have none other than Reynor and his opponent far in the bottom left with the blue Protoss pieces. He goes by the name of Classic. This particular series was of course played in the GSL Codes. It's a best of 3 between two, well, of the world's best. I've been very impressed by Classic again as of late. He's really been stepping it up. Now, he doesn't play a particularly spicy style of Protoss. He doesn't focus on the craziest micro or whatever, but I've been very impressed, especially with his PvT and the way he's been transitioning towards Storm super quickly. It's very fun to see. He's been, I'm hoping at the very least, in this matchup he will do the same thing too, but it's very clear to me that because of the new energy recharge ability on the Nexus, Protoss players are figuring out that they can get away with a very, very quick Psystorm. Of course, is he faking a cannon rush? There's no way. Reynor's gonna Reynor's gonna check for it. That's such a jerk move, man. Protoss players love pulling that sort of thing. So what you do is you just sort of send your probe over here and then you're like, I'm gonna go into the main base in the end. Just like you normally would. But it is gonna make the Zerg player panic for just a moment. There will be just a little spike in the blood pressure of Reynor there when he sees that the probe is sliding behind the Naturals mineral line. Very uncommon for a cannon rush at this level, but you never truly know. Anyway, we'll see. So the energy recharge has been on the Nexus for like maybe 5 months at this point. It's been a little bit. Originally, it was mostly used for like shield battery defense, so you can throw some additional energy onto a shield battery. Then obviously people very quickly moved on to the Oracles. I think Oracles are obviously also a prime candidate for the energy recharge because they're probably the best unit that Protoss has. Then Protoss players started doing a lot of sentry openers, so they started off with quick sentries, especially against Terran. They would recharge the energy on them and get the hallucination scouts, and that is still a very common thing right now. And lately, we've been seeing the energy recharge being used a ton on High Templar. It's really fun. I think it's very cool to see. It's one of those abilities that is just 10 times more interesting than the ability that it replaced. So the ability that it replaced was basically just a stronger version of the shield battery, right? That's a defensive tool. You can still use it defensively, but at the very least, you now get a bit more variety in every stage of the match. Well, so far, we haven't seen it being used a single time yet. Classic opting to go for the good old Adept, and then going into the Stargate. Oracle? Should be an Oracle. Or 2. Or 3. Or 4. No, probably 3 at most. Although I am a big fan of making 4 Oracles, just because I can make a 4-Oracle joke. Which, nobody finds funny except me. But that's okay, I make these videos for myself. Thank you for watching them, though. Do appreciate it. I've actually been making videos for such a long time. It's funny, sometimes I see a video that is like, been up for, say like 24 hours on YouTube, and you look at your like YouTube analytics, and YouTube is rating them, right? So the way that YouTube rates them is based on the view count compared to your most recent 10 uploads. And sometimes a video gets like 25,000 views in the first 24 hours, and I'm like, oh man, that is my worst performing video that I've uploaded in the last 10. Like you open your YouTube dashboard and it's trying to like almost shame you that you've only gotten that many people to watch your... Thank you for watching. I appreciate it, man. I made videos for years, and nobody watched. It was, I was just kind of talking into the void. Not entirely true. I sometimes see people that have, like, the amount of years that they have been subscribed to my YouTube channel in their, comment message, right? So you can actually see it in front of their usernames. And some folks have been literally subscribed for, like, a decade. Which is insane. Anyway, let's see. Oracles are indeed going to be the weapon of choice. Reynor so far doing an excellent job defending. Trying to make sure that there is minimal worker losses. And you can kind of tell here, right, that even though Oracles are so phenomenally powerful, Zerg players have gotten extremely good at defending against them because they have been the go-to opener for Protoss. Well, not just with this patch, but also with the patch before that, and the patch before that, and then also the patch before that. Not the patch before that one, though. The patch before that one, we saw triple Void Ray openers a lot. It's been a little bit. Anyway. It's one of those weird situations where, because you play it so frequently, even though it is definitely the best build to go for, yeah, your opponent also gets a ton of practice dealing with this sort of shenanigans, and ultimately, what was considered to be your best go-to build is now no longer really that amazing. Yeah, this is a bunch of drones falling, but then at the same time we see some probes dying on the other side of the map, which really shuts down most of the damage here that Classic is dealing. And ultimately, it's also a ton of adepts dying, right? So this is certainly a good start for Reynor. Losing 5 drones but killing 7 probes. He did lose 26 Zerglings, but those are basically free. Adepts, not quite up to that same level. And there it is, Templar Archives, nice and quick. I do love the Templar Archives nice and quick. It's very fun. So, not a good start though for Protoss. And that is, of course, always the scary part, right? So you may get all of this tech, you may get all of these researches going. Let's be real, Stalkers without Blink, kinda garbage. For Protoss, you need a lot of those upgrades before a unit is even effective. Colossi without ranged, kinda shaky. High Templar without Storm? Yeah, I don't think that would be the best Protoss unit that you can go for. But when you have a shaky start, and you don't really have a particularly good beginning, there's a chance that Reynor is just gonna like send the queens across inside of an Overlord, or they go for like a Link Flood or a Baneling Bust or anything else. And when you then have to go and do your researches, right, it takes forever. You might not be able to actually finish them up in time. Now, Reynor is using the time though that he has created for himself with that early game defense by going into a quick Spire. Mutas will be his weapon of choice. Very quick 4th Nexus, by the way, here for Classic. Little Overlord drop. Could have gone after the Nexus itself, but he wants to, I think, coincide that attack with the Marine, or with the Zergling drop, rather, inside of the main base, with the Mutas. Okay, additional Zerglings were made to try and go after the 4th Nexus. And even though the Stalkers are out, they're on the other side of the map. And this is all going extremely nicely here for Reynor. He decides to unload the balloon a little early. Again, I think to keep that Protoss army at home, so the Mutas are going to be able to pop out completely unscouted. We have nearly 1,200 gas saved up. Nearly 2,000 minerals. All of that, there you go, gets dumped onto Ultralisks. And this is one of the worst case scenarios for Protoss. When you don't see, I don't think he's seen it, no. When you don't see that there is a Spire out on the other side of the map and you suddenly have to deal with a dozen Ultralisks, it's extremely difficult to defend. So what exactly does he have? No Photon Cannon in the natural, in the main base. There is one over at the 3rd to try and deal with Zergling run-bys. Nothing to really protect the 4th base yet either. Now, he will have Storm, and he does have Blink Stalkers. Technically, all of that is phenomenal. It's just that Reynor is a fast player, and he can run circles around these type of armies. +1 air, by the way, also researching. Hive will likely be coming up. 2nd Evo Chamber, also researching. So, I mean, he has gone into Ultras in the past. I wouldn't mind it. Classic, he's gonna have to immediately recall. Mutas decide to flock to another base. Keep in mind that recall is a pretty long cooldown, so you can't just recall to another base again. So far, crisis management, though, from Classic has been good. What about the fight over here at the 4th base? Zerglings are, well, running over in that direction, too. There was, I think, 1 Templar, 2 Templar over here. They decide to merge together into a single Archon. And just like that, the probes are dropping like flies. Brilliant first game here by Reynor. Yeah, and this is what happens when a world-class Zerg does not take damage in the early game. It also showcases you exactly why Protoss is expected to deal some sort of damage in the early game, because if they don't, this is the type of floodgates that are opened. 42 probes have died. Now, quite a few of the Mutas have also passed on, but there's more to replace those. Hive coming up, +1 armor coming up. Can you really be aggressive right now as Classic? If you decide to go across the map here with this army, you're effectively all in. Zergling run by, I mean, it would be nice. This 3rd base, though, is, I mean, not impenetrable, but it's certainly difficult to attack into. Yeah, I think just backing up and focusing on the defense is the way to go. Still, though, aggressive link forward here for Classic. He's going to be able to snipe a hatch with relative ease. That stasis ward is not going to go up. A storm here to just try and force these units to back off, but I mean, that was Classic killing his opponent's, like, what, 5th base? While struggling to get a 4th base of his own. Ultras coming up, okay. Adrenal glands researching, that's about a 40% attack speed improvement for Lynx. Massive upgrade. And Classic is already struggling dealing with the Zerg army as it is. This is only gonna get harder as time goes by. Now, this is the type of opener for Protoss where there's one tech structure that's missing, and that would be the Robo facility. There is no Robo facility as far as I can tell, and that means that there will not be any Immortals, and without Immortals, Ultras are actually insane. It does still take a little while, though, before the Ultras will be insane. He needs chitinous plating on them, which is the armor improvement for them. Nice blink over here across those gateways. I'm assuming we're going to see that start up pretty quickly in the Ultra Cavern. There it is. It's always funny to me when we see the Mutas flying around and the Zerglings moving on the minimap, and he's microing all of that, but then somehow in the middle of all of it, also starts up the Carapace research. That'll be the end for the Mutas. Yeah, maybe one of them will survive. But what about the Ultras? How in the world, as he does kill even more probes over here, despite the static defense, it's 67 probes that have died. Alright. Anyways, the Mutalisks may be gone, but the Ultralisks are here to replace it, and Reynor is cruising right now. This is one of those games as well that just feels great for the Zerg. Like, he knows that this is practically unlosable. He needs to deal with this Protoss army, but Ultras can just chomp their way through it. Classic hasn't seen the Ultras yet. It's only a part, by the way, of the Zerg army right now at home. He decides to send quite a large chunk of it across the map to try and take down the probes over at the 3rd. I mean, he's recalling. He wants to get the Banelings onto the High Templar. Okay, no High Templar anymore in this region, but he decided to stick around for a bit longer anyways. Where's the Chompers? The Chompers are here. +2 Carapace is quite late. +3 is also going to finish up for melee eventually, but it is time to start chomping. And those, oh my god, those High Templar look very chompable. Chomp, chomp. Chomp, chomp. In the meantime, Zergling run by, absolutely relentless. Okay, well, those storms are juicy. I will give Classic that. Classic has now lost 81 probes. He's still 60, 70-ish supply behind. I guess quite a portion of the Reynor supply count is caught up by a bunch of roaches, and yeah, the roach count is just not particularly useful anymore at this point in time. Still though, Classic is actually sort of hanging in here. Yeah, Reynor just trying to replace these units now. He wants to lose them, but not without getting some sort of value. Storming his own mineral line there. High Templar in the meantime are dying to Ultras. Reynor's actually so careful. I think he could just A-move. I'm pretty sure, okay, he gets a fungal growth as well to boot. That means that those Stalkers are now not able to blink away as long as the fungal growth is on them. Fungal growth, it inhibits any movement ability in the game. So if you're an Ultra, you can just hit him. If you're a Stalker, though, you will not be able to blink away. And I believe that'll be another dead High Templar. Yeah, beautiful game number 1 here by Reynor. Absolutely dominant. And even though Classic is trying his best to hold on, and he's, well, made an Immortal now, he's actually targeting it. He's actually doing such a good job. This is not a winnable state. It's absolutely not a winnable state for Classic. Yeah, if anything, though, this shows you that we certainly have a series on our hands. Because this was obviously not a great start for Classic. GG. Next up, the map is Ley Lines. Now, Classic had a pretty poor start in that previous game. He made all of those Adepts, he made all of those Oracles. The Adepts died. I mean, it would have been even worse if he had lost the Oracles too, but it is a bit tricky, right? When you send out, I think you must have sent out like maybe 8, 9-ish Adepts in that previous game. When you send all of those out and they don't really slow down the Zerg at all, you then also lose a bunch of probes at home to boot. It's not what you're looking for. So let's see if Classic can have a better start this time around. I'm not really expecting any crazy variety, because honestly the follow-up by Classic was good. Right? It's just that he had a poor start to the game. And ultimately, the early game is the foundation of any match. It's difficult to come back in modern StarCraft 2. And even though it wasn't a massive deficit, he took way too much damage. But other than that, right? Other than him taking damage, the game actually looked very competitive. Other than him losing the game, he played great. I'm sure you get what I'm trying to say. All right. Oracle coming up. Adepts shading around, trying their very best to get some work in. Oracle number 2 immediately on the back of this as well. Best Protoss unit in the game. How cool is it? It shoots lasers and stuff. Well, it should try and direct some of those lasers onto the drones. Excellent movement here by Reynor. Reynor now feeling so confident that he's not even making a spore crawler anymore. And he's even sent a group of Zerglings to the other side of the map. Okay. It did force those adepts to come back home. Only a handful of Zerglings, by the way, made in total here by Reynor. We've seen a lot of Zerg players make up to like 20 at this stage in the game, and that just seems to put every Zerg on the back foot. Reynor only made, I think, 12 in total. Yeah, just 12 Zerglings in total so far, defending flawlessly at home. And that means, of course, that a lot more of those larvae are turned into worker units instead. And that's going to give him that nice eco boost. And so far, Oracles and Adepts are getting nothing done. Absolutely nothing. Now, because of the latest patches, though, you don't really need to deal a lot of damage as Protoss. Forcing out unit production, generally speaking, is enough. That's not really been the case so far here. Reynor hasn't really made a lot of units. But because of the way that modern StarCraft works, you don't really need a ton of damage to the economy of the opponent. Any damage, though, is a nice bonus. At least in big contrast to the previous game, Classic now hasn't taken any real damage at home. It looked a little dire for the Nexus for just a moment, but the Nexus stayed alive. Maybe Reynor should have made 20 Zerglings, huh? Maybe then the Nexus would have died. Anyways, the Nexus stayed alive. And he's going to be able to transition towards Blink together with +1 at the very conventional timing. Reynor is already countering this by going into +1 melee. +1 melee for Zerglings is extremely good against that type of opener. We have Templar Archives on the back of this. So we should see a nice and quick Psy Storm once more. Okay. Because Reynor didn't have a phenomenal start this time, we're going into a more conventional follow-up. So he didn't skip the Roach Warren, he didn't skip the Hydra Den. He did have some opportunities to be aggressive in this particular set. He could have gone for a big aggressive push in this game. Doesn't seem like that will be his weapon of choice, at least there's no real Zerg cheese here. Just following it up with a similar game as what he tried to do in the previous one, albeit one where the start is not quite as successful. Okay. Classic pushing, by the way, with Blink almost done. MaxPax has been pushing even earlier with Stalkers, where Blink is like maybe halfway finished. He already leaves home. It's kind of fun to see. But obviously he has a couple more Stalkers because there's not as quick of a Storm follow-up. And Storm is already like halfway done at this point in time. 4th Nexus building, 6:45 in the game. It is quick. And this 4th hatchery here at the bottom is actually kind of struggling a bit. +1 melee, though, is done. Oh, that's that weird graphical glitch that only ever happens on this map, on this ramp. I don't know why. Anyways, the Zerglings do now have +1 melee. And it's going to allow them to hit those Stalkers very nicely. Now, you can tell here that Classic has been clicking on his opponent's units, too. And upon recognizing that the opponent indeed did finish +1 melee, he decides to walk back home. It's a well-oiled machine from both players, right? Like, we can see the ebb and the flow between these different armies. Like, both players are very well in sync with one another. Like, despite all of the aggression, look, Classic has lost literally nothing. Zerg has lost 22 Zerglings and an Overlord. Okay. I mean, that is for Zerg it's basically nothing, okay? Reynor is... I think we can call this a flawless game so far for Reynor 2. Charge coming up. It's already done. In 2, 1, boom. Hive also researching here for Reynor. Classic decides to go through the middle of the map once more. He would love to finish out a game with a perfect 0 resources lost type of game, but don't think that's entirely realistic. Especially with centrifugal hooks that's bailing speed now, finishing up. Reynor has decided to not go for lurkers just yet, so the hive is about halfway done. If he wants to go lurkers, well, he should probably have done it. Oh my god, those storms are juicy. And that's an easy kill on a hatch. Man, is he still... Okay, he's lost 3 zealots, but still pretty much flawless here. One of the oracles falls. That's suboptimal. Reynor never has made a lurker den, so I'm not exactly sure what the follow-up is really going to be. Maybe it's Ultras once more, but this is a very different game than the previous one. Already, there's a Stargate together with a fleet beacon as well, researching, or building rather, so... If he wants to go into a Skytools transition, it would probably be going Tempest into a mothership. Phenomenal follow-up, but difficult to really pull off. Also kind of sloppy here to be first losing those units. Oracles are so critical in combination with Tempests. Either way, the fleet beacon is now nearly done, and Reynor does see this coming in from a mile away. Reynor not putting down a Spire. Meaning that he does not really want to play a super long game, I don't think. This would be the time to put down a Spire. There's the Tempest production. Classic going into some additional photon cannons. So he is ready to defend. Ultra Cavern again. Now, I think this is one of those games where I don't like the Ultra Cavern. Ultras are really nice in niche scenarios. And they're great at driving home a victory. Like, when you're already leading, Ultras seem to be so strong. In a game like this, though, where I really don't think anything has really gone Reynor's way. I mean, it might still, of course. Getting an Immortal is awesome. Yeah, he now sees that the Immortal production, though, is already underway. I don't know, man. I feel like you can almost cancel this, but... He wanted to... I guess he wanted to skip the Lurker play here altogether, so it's Hydroling Bane into Ultras instead. I love this. Hydras are technically an anti-air unit, but they kind of suck at it. Carriers, Tempests, Storm, Archons, Mothership. I mean, that's the only army you really need. As long as Classic can max out with it, he's gonna hit like an absolute truck. I love the timing here of the +1 air. I wouldn't even mind seeing a second Cybercore already coming up, just to begin the double research, although that's a bit greedy. I'm a little afraid that what we're going to see here from Reynor is going to work out. It's going to work out really nicely initially, and then it just sort of fizzles out. Because this is not really a Zerg army that builds great into the late game. He's not planning, though, on going the distance here. Yeah, he wants to try and see if he can overwhelm and smother the opponent with aggression before the late game ever properly takes place. Another big storm over here. Big Zealot Warp in 2. So far, Classic's defense... I mean, yeah, he did lose like 60 workers in the previous game, but I really feel like his defense has actually been quite stellar. Ultra Cavern, though, is finished. Chitinous Plating is coming up. Ultras are morphing in. When the Skytools crown grows, Ultras are gonna get exponentially worse. Keep in mind, though, that Carriers are extremely strong, but not so much against maxed out Ultras. Ultras with full armor take very little damage from Carriers. Okay. Still no Spire. Still no Spire anywhere. Storm? Okay. And the Storms have been phenomenal. I really do like the Storms. Can we do another one? Boom. Boom. It's crazy what a man can do when he doesn't hit all army. Honestly, quite mind-boggling, man. When the Zerglings can't just run into your bases for free. Crazy stuff. Alright, a bunch of zealots here are getting sacrificed at the bottom of the map. But I think they're making place for more expensive units. Yep, Cybercore 2.0. So we can start up the armor research too. So both players have very clearly chosen their weapon of choice. Reynor has gone Ultra Hydra Ling Bane. Classic has gone for, well, the ultimate late game army for Protoss. He's not quite there yet because he has a lot of supplies still caught up in units that aren't as useful. He decides to recall to try and save those troops. Good storm to start this fight, but the whole positioning here for Classic is extremely awkward, and the Ultras are putting in a ton of work. Yeah. Classic needs more Immortals. I like it. I think the additional Immortals here are going to be extremely useful. He scouted the Ultras, and he was like, no way, you're actually serious with it. But then he now sees that his opponent needs to double down on Ultralisks. So he lost some supply and he's immediately adding on more Immortals. Immortals are 100% the unit that you truly need in order to deal with Ultras. Without Immortals, Ultras actually will tear apart everything. I think he probably assumed that there would be a sudden transition here into a group of Corruptors. And maybe that will be the next step here in the Reynor master plan. But that's why he overcommitted to Archons. Try and make sure that he didn't lose anything silly there. But now that he's seen, okay, this is actually like Ultras, like for real? Like for real, like no cap? No Ultra? No, we do have actual Ultralisks here. And they're currently all the way up north. The fight over here is looking pretty good. Honestly, the static defense is not doing that poorly either. Ultimately, this is minerals being traded out for units that are pretty heavy in gas. Ultra count over here too. I find it very brave for Reynor to be fighting this without actual anti-air. Oh my lord. Well, this is why we normally don't. Oh my god. Yeah, so again, Hydras technically can shoot up. Realistically though, they died to Storm, Disruptors. They died to everything, man. That was a garbage fight for Reynor, but it took about 2 seconds. And that's one of the problems with Hydras. They're incredibly good, but also extremely glass cannon, right? So, like, they deal a lot of damage, but they have very little survivability. And if they get one storm to the face, even though Reynor is a 600 APM player here, he was probably distracted with another fight, looked away from his Hydras for literally like 1 second, and then they all died. Corruptors are generally the more beefy target, but he has picked his poison in this particular game. He's doubling down on it. He does have a Spire, but obviously that would be entirely unupgraded, and soon it's going to be +3/+1 Skytos. Okay, what about the Immortals? I mean, the Storms, the Immortals, I mean, everything is putting in so much work. Nah, Reynor supply here is dropping. Not going to happen. GG. Classic making it look easy. I don't believe that was a particularly flawless game, especially the second half, but, I mean, he navigated that really, really nicely. He even thought that the Ultras were a bluff, which is kind of funny, because he did not really respect the Ultralisks initially at all. Ultras are so uncommon in this matchup when it's a straight-up game that you kind of just expect the opponent to not really truly mean it. Like, sure, you may make an Ultra Cavern. Maybe if, like, all of the ground units are gone, then, yeah, maybe you can put in some work, but when Classic actually saw that the Ultras were for real, and he decided to start countering them with Immortals, and he dealt with the multiple, and then obviously that phenomenal Storm as well at the bottom of the map, right? I mean, that was just, yeah, a perfect example of what the Protoss late game is capable of. Now, Zerg does have multiple flavors of late game. You can, for example, go into that Spire, you can go into the Infestation Pit, and you make Infestors, and you can go into the Vipers and all that, but it's a very different approach. The main problem you run into transitioning into that sort of style later on into the game is upgrades. So when your opponent is playing full Skytos, and they can stick on Skytos for the remainder of the game, and you decide to put down a Spire at like minute 15, you're basically making 0/0 Corruptors into a Protoss army that is pretty much already maxed. So technically it's possible, but it's difficult to transition into when you've already chosen to go Hydras. He did make a Spire. Maybe it was, if there ever was a situation, right, where he could afford the research, but I I was a little worried as soon as Reynor threw down the Ultra Cavern. And, yeah, I guess I was right to be. Anyways, let's see. Ultralisk. What can we do? Well, I don't suspect that we're gonna see anything weird here coming out of Classic. I think Classic will do the exact same thing again. I wonder if we'll see Reynor going Banelings this game at all. I wonder if we'll see him going Banelings, and I wonder if we're gonna see a Lurker Den instead of an Ultra Cavern. I think that will probably make more sense. Lurker Den generally the go-to. Lurkers are strong because you don't really need too many upgrades on them. Evo Chamber upgrades are a luxury, not really a requirement. Lurkers just always deal a lot of damage. Alternatively, Reynor could just play a... Ooh, okay, he could just play a quick game. I wouldn't mind that at all. I feel like maybe this is like a little bit of Zerg bias coming in. I've played a lot of Zerg myself, but I genuinely feel like sitting back and playing a passive game as Zerg against Protoss is pretty much always going to lose you the game. Rarely do we see a Zerg player sitting back like what we saw in the previous game with some attempted run-bys and stuff, and then them winning. I feel like that type of passivity just promotes the Protoss style a little bit better in the current meta. Anyways, it's going to be Glaive to Depth. So even though Classic may be thinking about being the aggressor, and maybe he's thinking about playing late game, we will have to see a wave of those Adepts going across the map. And keep in mind, this similar type of opener failed really badly in the first game of this particular series. Now, interestingly enough, Reynor has decided to skip the +1 melee this time around, and he does go into +1 missile. I wonder if that means that he doesn't want to go into that same approach, right? Maybe with melee, he's going to go Ultras. Maybe with missile, he's going to go Lurkers. We'll have to see. Either way, we're a long ways away from that right now, and if it's up to Classic, this particular series is over in the next minute. He decides to target fire down the Queens directly. Okay, there is a wall off over here at the front. Nice little shade buy again. Reynor, though, has not really overproduced units, I don't think. And not really overproduced drones yet either. An additional group of Adepts. These could be painful. Queens, though, are hiding inside of the mineral line. Stasis Ward is going to get denied. Zerglings over here are also available. And this is going to hurt Reynor quite a bit. Of course, though, keep in mind that the follow-up here will likely be a Zerg player on the other side of the map. If you commit too hard here as Protoss, you won't have any units ready to defend at home. And honestly, this is late. Blink should have started up a little while ago. So, as the dust settles, 13 drones have died, 17 Adepts. 1 Queen, 39 Zerglings. I don't hate it for Reynor, to be honest. So here's that Roach counterattack. Okay, it's actually not that many units. No. It's not really that many units at all. Classic has successfully dealt with some of those troops as well. Not a single Roach has died. So good target firing right there by the Korean Protoss. Not letting any of those Adept shots go to waste. Oh. That was brave. Do we recall? Careful. Okay. In the meantime, though, Storm is coming up. We'll continuously chrono boost it. 4th Nexus is building. I think in the last games, it was at like 6:45 or so, the 4th Nexus. Now we're quite a bit later on into the game already. Infestation Pit coming up. Roach speed. Just about to finish too. What about the Zergling counterattack? Keep in mind these links do not have +1 melee like they did in the previous games. So they're not just... Yeah, you can really tell when Zerglings don't have upgrades. They just don't deal as much damage. It's similar to like Marines, Zealots too, to a slightly lesser extent, I would say. Anyways, there's the Hive coming up. We have a Lurker Den. Or we don't yet have a Lurker Den, but I'm expecting a Lurker Den here. Oh, thank you for making me look good, Reynor. Reynor making me look smart. Hell yeah. Shout out to Reynor. Now, it just makes a lot of sense. In the previous game, we just didn't really get the ball rolling. And this is a more conventional style from Reynor. He does have a nice army, but it's difficult for him to do anything with it. Classic going into a robo facility here. I like it. He does have Storm done. 6 High Templar in total. One of them just got a nice little energy top off. No more Cardarian Amulet for them, but they can still put in the work. Of course, an upgrade that got removed recently. Like maybe 2012. Another Stargate already coming up for Classic, by the way. I wouldn't be surprised if he decides to sneak out a Fleet Beacon. Feels a bit sneaky at this point. Good storms. It's like he just passes by. Lurkers are not yet out, right? And that is the real scary thing. Without Lurkers, what in the world are you going to do against these type of pushes? Roach Hydra just doesn't hold it. And you know what? Classic is like, yo, buddy, if you're not really clean with your execution and your Lurkers seemingly are a bit late, I might just be able to shove my army straight up to your natural. It's a dangerous move, though, because now he's going to find himself getting surrounded by Lurkers from the back. New reinforcing units just popped out of the cocoons over here, too. This is an awkward fight here from Classic, but I'm honestly impressed with the way that he's navigating it. Yeah. High Templar trying to see if they can move in around the site. Get a little bit of work in, okay. Yeah. It's an overextension by Classic for certain, but he's done a lot of eco damage in the process. He's, by the way, adding on a 3rd Stargate here. Still no Fleet Beacon. I'm not sure exactly what the Stargates are for. Little Stalker run by in the meantime, all the way on this 4th base of Reynor. This is quite far. Oh, Stalkers, though, can, of course, take a shortcut down to the low ground. He's getting so much eco damage done. This attack right here from Classic is actually ridiculous. I didn't think that this attack for Classic was gonna work at all. Oh my god, he forgot Charge. Charge is extremely late. Like, Charge and Fleet Beacon do not go in the same category. Usually they're not at the production tab at the same time. That was a good bit of damage done, though, by Classic. It makes sense that the Lurkers eventually allow Reynor here to stabilize, but that is 53 workers in total going down. That's crazy. That's a lot of workers. Okay, now Reynor will have a big power spike, though. Range for Lurkers is going to be awesome. I would love to see the Lurker Burrow research, too. If he doesn't go Lurker Burrow, he's going to have a hard time being the aggressor. Problem is, of course, that he knows that this is going to be happening next. Classic has an answer for everything. He's even feeling so comfortable right now that he decides to build up another base in the meantime. You'd imagine that the opponent is going to counterattack here, but he's parked his army in the middle of the map, he's going for a Skytools transition, and he's building a brand new Nexus far from where the Zerg player is. And now we're heading into a pretty similar game compared to the previous one. Minus, of course, well, Ultralisks. We don't have those. But we're heading into a similar direction, except Classic is massively ahead. And I think we all know the outcome of the previous game. Classic looking dominant in the later stages of a game. That attack straight onto the ramp, dude. I feel like this is one of those moves, though, that we saw just now, that a lot of ladder heroes are going to try and copy, and it's going to go horribly wrong. The way that Classic actually navigated his way out of there was very, very impressive to me. Okay, Reynor has decided to smash his piggy bank and go into a Nidus network. Again, we end up with Hydralisks as his main version of anti-air. It's a bold move. Let's see if it pays off. Mothership makes a lot of sense. There she is. How many Tempests do we have? Already 5. Yeah. He decides to show them right now to the opponent. He's like, "Lo, look, Reynor, look what I got. Look what I got, dude. Isn't that nice?" He did lose his oracles, though, during all of the previous engagements. So I guess, yeah, it's going to be a little bit difficult for him, but this is looking mighty fine right now. Classic. Yeah. I feel like as a Zerg player, you gotta forget sometimes that Hydras shoot up. Because I have tricked myself into believing Hydras are a great anti-air unit. I want to say hundreds of games. Okay, Reynor has got the Lurker Den up, or the Nidus Worm rather, up on the other side of the map, and he's ferried the Lurkers across. So this is apparently the way we're gonna try and settle this game, with a full-on base race. Keep in mind that with the mothership didn't spawn, but you can still use a Nexus to recall too. Classic is going to be able to send his army back home if he wants to. He just knows, though, that as soon as he does that, the Zerg army is also going to go back home. So, did he kill the Nidus? Where's the Nidus network itself? Oh, he already killed the Nidus network, I think. So that means that it is indeed a one-way trip. You can hide inside of the Nidus Worm, but if all of the ends of the Nidus Worm are gone, be it the network, be it the Nidus itself, all the units inside of it die. So Classic is taking a calm base race. Yeah, he's rebuilding some of his tech in the far bottom right of the map. Or far bottom right of his side of the map. He knows it's going to take the Zerg player forever to get down here. So even though this looks spicy, and I guess it is the very best choice that Reynor can make, I like this so much better for Classic. Classic doesn't have to rush. Classic can kind of just chill. Take down all of the bases of the Zerg, or at least all of the important tech, and then recall. You're gonna be left over with like 3 bases versus 0. And at this point, actually, he's killed every single hatchery. That means that Reynor has to now win the game with the army that he's got. And that army is, spoiler alert, not good enough. It is 13 Hydras. Reynor has... Oh my god, here's a recall. He decides to recall in this base for some reason. Anyways, it doesn't matter. I think if he really wanted to be safe, he should have recalled to watch another expansion instead. This particular series, though, is over. Classic can reproduce whatever unit he wants. Look at him. He's going to go straight back into Skytos. Reynor still has a bunch of drones available, but he decides to hit the G's on the keyboard. And with that, it is indeed a 2-1 victory for Classic. Now, special shout out to the Patreon supporters. Thank you all very much. For now, though, have a great rest of your day. Don't forget to smile, and I'll see you again in the next one.